If you only started playing League of Legends sometime past the start of 2012, then you might not be familiar with this guy. This is Omen, a champion that was slated to be released in early September of 2011, but due to technical issues that popped up behind the scenes, Riot ended up releasing Riven in his place as he'd be delayed and eventually cancelled. Ever since the League community has known about him, a number of people have felt disappointed, claiming that he's a really neat and unusual concept that's been wasted, causing plenty of fans to petition Riot to give him the blind monk treatment of reworking him years later after a previous cancellation. Riot has said it's almost certainly never gonna happen, but today I want to take a look at Omen and explain what it is people find so fascinating about him, and ask you specifically, should he really be reworked and eventually released? Now, the thing you gotta understand about Omen is he was scheduled to be released in a time when League of Legends desperately needed him. He was going to be the 82nd champion put into the game, and of the 81 that came before him, only a single champion, Skarner, wasn't a human or humanoid creature. Champion design back then seemed to be handicapped by a lack of creativity in this department. When the design team found something that worked back then, they just kinda stuck with it. Most female champions, for instance, were the stereotypical, let's make them all attractive as hell, like even if we're making a cat champion, let's make it turn into a sexy cat lady too. Riot has gotten a lot better about this recently, especially in that department. You don't exactly hear any social justice warriors complaining that Rek'Sai isn't an accurate representation of the female body or anything, but back then this was a serious issue. A lot of champions felt very similar to one another. Riot made some really cool champions with good design that was good for casual and competitive play, but it was typically because they were staying in their comfort zone in terms of kits, abilities, and looks. All females were attractive, few non-humanoid champions exist, even the skill sets were all samey. There was this big stereotype back then of every Q just resets auto attacks, every W is a shield, etc, etc. With so many champions feeling so similar to one another, when you see a cool and unique concept like this, something fresh that might end up spicing up the League roster, you can't help but get a little excited. A new champion to main, possibly new abilities, a new kit, new game mechanics. What will this cool bundle of spikes add to the game? But after hearing he ended up getting scrapped, a lot of people became lifelong fans of the guy and still want to see him put into the game. But I think when we ask, should Riot still rework and repurpose him and put him back into the game in a future release, we have to take a look at some important issues. Look at what was happening behind the scenes with Omen when he was being created, and you can see a bit of an interesting story that calls some stuff into question. A leaked champion design presentation that's for introducing new employees to champion design philosophy at Riot describes some of Omen's development and some of the struggles the design team faced when creating him. Specifically, Riot really didn't know anything about him. They didn't have any solid concept, any big inspiration. They didn't know, is he ranged, is he melee, what role is he for, and this is the reason why Riot would end up canceling him. The presentation specifically states, we could tell decision makers we're continuing this character, is that okay? And nobody would say no, but if we asked, will this champion be a 10 out of 10, then we definitely would have heard a resounding no way Jose. Riot specifically outlines this scenario in the presentation to encourage developers to have a not good enough attitude and have very high standards for their work. And that, herein lies the problem with Omen. When you ask yourself, should Omen be reconsidered for a rework and release, you kinda have to ask yourself the question, is it worth fleshing out a mediocre idea just for the sake of fleshing it out, even if it hurts League of Legends in the long run, or is it better to quit if things start to go awry? Let's take a look at Skarner for a second here. Skarner, like many bugs in video games, has caused a lot of problems, specifically for League of Legends, being one of the few non-humanoids out there, and Riot has stated that they don't want to repeat the mistake of Skarner with someone like Omen. Recently, he was reworked as a part of the whole Juggernaut thing for a second rework, which goes to show just how much the balance team has struggled with him over the years. He doesn't feel like an exciting and unusual champion, despite the fact that he is a unique concept, playing as a Scorpion instead of the usual big-chested female mage or whatever. Hell yeah, that sounds awesome, but it's not something that translates into the game very well. Something went wrong halfway through his development, and now you just have this unbalanced mess terrorizing the Rift. He's not unbalanced as in he's always OP, mind you, but he's unbalanced as in it's so hard to get him in a balanced state where everyone's happy. He's either always super OP or super underpowered. A similar thing could have very well been happening with Omen. Would fleshing out this champion and releasing him give issues to future players in metas where constant balance changes and reworks will have to bring him in line? The only other non-humanoid released at that time had that problem, and just take a look at someone like Ao Shin, 20 bucks, says Riot is struggling with a very similar problem related to that guy's release too. Maybe it's a lot more difficult to release non-humanoid creatures that feel like they're cool for being non-humanoid, and maybe some of the kits that you have to give them break the game naturally. But I'm not here to tell you guys what to think. Leave a comment down below and give me your own opinions. Is it worth fleshing out bad content just for the sake of learning more about the creation of similar pieces, or is it better to have high standards and prevent yourself from releasing bad content or exploring it to its furthest for the sake of making sure your game is as good as it can possibly be? I typically tend to lean more towards the latter when it comes to my videos and any content that I make, but you guys can of course leave all your opinions in a comment down below. I hope you guys all enjoyed today's video. As you leave your opinions, feel free to tell me what you thought of today's video. If you liked the format, it's been a while since I made a video like this and I had a lot of fun with it. Hopefully you guys are looking forward to more like it in the future. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching today's video. I'll see you all soon, but until next time, good luck in solo queue and have a wonderful day.